The Helldivers were successful, and so we've got a new 𝗲𝐴cy space station buff incoming, but not every diver is convinced of what this can or will do. There's also some more talk about the ODST Warbond gear and weapons, along with a strange Super Earth leaked document that just got posted. If you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe and ring the notifications bell to help support the channel. And now, let's dive into today's news with Helldivers. Okay divers, our first stop for today is on our super destroyers, as when you log in you'll be met with the major order completed message and then your medals. Unless you're maxed out, in which case, like me, you get nothing but the satisfaction of knowing we won. In a triumph of territorial integrity, the Helldivers have re-seized the worlds necessary to enable accelerated DSS augmentations. The atmosphere of 𝗙𝗲𝗃𝗂𝗏 has been successfully permeated with polymer aerosols, coating the democratic space station precisely and evenly. This vessel is now fully capable of traversing the Gloom. Crew-wide spore quarantine protocol has been met with resounding applause by DSS employees and contractors. Laminated disinfection reminders are heeded, respected, and peer enforced. Finally, a prototype atmospheric autoclave has been installed aboard the DSS. This device is capable of sterilizing 50 kilometers cubed of atmosphere Gloom spores per minute. While this will not result in a significant decrease in Gloom cover on a planet, it will significantly lessen the Terminids' advantage on the planet. Thanks to the Helldivers, the DSS has gained the capability to not just traverse, but actively counteract the Gloom. We'll get to the DSS and its new upgrades in just a moment, but is anyone out there actually concerned about what might happen on 𝗙𝗲𝗃𝗂𝗏 now that we've released a ton of polymer aerosols into the upper atmosphere? I mean, are we looking at mutated Illuminate somewhere in our futures? Harvesters with 3 laser beam eyes, voteless, capable of cloaking like the Predator strain? But then again, we Helldivers never really worry about that kind of stuff, and if something does happen, we could just destroy the whole damn planet, right? I mean, what could possibly go wrong? Alright, over to our Death Star and its new upgrades, and to be honest with you, not a whole lot is known in terms of specifics of what this polymer coating and atmospheric autoclave can actually do, but from the way it sounds, we may be able to finally bring the DSS into the Gloom to help support our operations, and it also sounds like it will provide us with additional operational bonuses. Right now, we've already got the Eagle Storm, Orbital Blockade, and Heavy Ordnance distribution that all require samples to power up, have a limited uptime, and cooldown timer. What not every diver knows is that the DSS also has several passive effects tied to it, and that its presence near a planet provides a slight boost to all campaign operations, and as a part of a previous unlock, the DSS also provides reduced cooldowns for the Patriot and Emancipator exosuits by a further 35%. Are we looking at this new coating increasing planetary visibility on Gloom planets? I mean, that would be pretty clutch. Also, is it going to reduce planet regen rates, effectively buffing our progress on Gloom planets, or are we looking at something completely different? Here's where you get to post your theories. Drop a comment about what your best guess as to what this new hull coating on the DSS will do, as I'm always interested in what the community feedback will look like. In terms of community expectations, though, it looks as though many are skeptical of what this new upgrade will actually gain the Helldivers, with this post stating that they have a feeling that the so-called upgrade to the DSS is really just the ability to go into the Gloom and killing us, and then they've scratched through the killing and swapped it out for helping us. Personally, I'd love to see some specifics in-game. For instance, with the new coating, when deployed to Gloom-infested planets, regen rates are reduced by 3%, or visibility is increased by 50%, you know, something like that, so we know exactly what the buff is and the percentage it is being applied. Details, Arrowhead. What we need here are details. Of course, when we speak of details and needing information, back when we started to get the new back-to-back-to-back content drops, including the Xbox release, the first bit that dropped was the ODST Warbond, which for many looked really cool in concept and was faithful to the Halo franchise, but at 1500 super creds, it had some players asking why at that price there were no upgrades or customization. Well, we've got a new FrandomWire article that tackles that very topic. Quote, "It requires more work. Helldivers 2 players left furious after Arrowhead gives a shallow excuse for not balancing weapons. This is the exact reason why Arrowhead Game Studios isn't buffing Helldivers 2 Halo ODST Legendary Warbond weapons." And by the way, I want to say I do not agree with everything in this article. I'll explain at the end, but let's see what they have to say. Remember how hyped we all were just a month ago when Arrowhead Game Studios announced Helldivers 2 Halo ODST Legendary Warbond? While the weapons from this crossover looked great on paper once we actually tried them out, they turned out to be horrendous. You'd think ahead that Arrowhead is already working on some buffs, but according to them, it apparently, quote, "requires more work and isn't on the cards." We're not kidding with that quote, Helldivers. On the game's official Discord, when a player asked Arrowhead's CEO, 𝗕𝗄𝘅 𝘠𝗠𝑖, about buffing the Halo weapons, his reply was just mind-boggling. Since the Halo ODST Warbond weapons fall under the licensed content category, Arrowhead can't just weaken or buff them out of nowhere to make them viable. What does this mean? Well, don't ever think about using the 𝗵𝐴 assault rifle, 𝗵90A shotgun, 𝗕cie SOCOM, or 𝗵7S SMG. They're going to stay useless for a while. With this being a legendary warbond priced at 1,500 super credits, the community believes it's absolutely worthless and only purchases it for pure Halo nostalgia. It's a shame that Arrowhead has fumbled what could have been the most powerful arsenal for spreading managed democracy across the galaxy in Helldivers 2. Let's just hope that the developers realize if a warbond is going to come with a premium price tag, its weapons should actually deliver some firepower. To be fair, we can't completely blame Arrowhead for not being able to buff the Halo weapons. Let's not forget that Halo is a Microsoft property, and it's safe to assume some licensing agreements give Microsoft some control over how these weapons look, feel, and are represented in Helldivers 2. Any changes would likely need Microsoft's approval. But if that's really the case, why even bother collaborating with IPs that come with so many restrictions? Sure, Halo weapons in Helldivers 2 look fantastic, but what's the point of wasting medals and getting your hands on them if every other weapon in the co-op game outclasses them? And let's not forget the steep cost of the Warbond, which makes it even worse. If Arrowhead really wants to keep the crossover bandwagon going for Helldivers 2, they'd better stick to the franchises under Sony's umbrella. That's why it was probably much easier for them to adjust and buff weapons from the Killzone crossover, since Arrowhead works for Sony. At the end of the day, adding weapons that can't be balanced or improved just makes them feel like a waste, and that shouldn't be the case moving forward. Alright, I did say that I did not agree with everything in this article, and I do have some feedback here. And my first question is, was the ODST Warbond drip-tastic? Did it look fantastic? Yes, it did. The armor and weapons looked incredible. Now, where I tend to not agree with this article is in calling them all horrendous and that they are overmatched by every other weapon in the game. Are the ODST offerings the best? Clearly, no. But are they the worst? Again, no. Now, I think if Arrowhead could have A, sorted out the effects of the armor making less noise and how that would affect detection, along with the suppressors actually having some effect, again, on detection, and B, if they could have given divers the ability to equip, use, and unlock upgrades, the ODST Warbond would have hit a lot harder for many players. Even if the upgrades were just stat-driven. No visual changes, no banana mags hanging off the 𝗵𝐴, that would have worked. And I know a lot of you also wanted medium armor pen on the 𝗵90A shotgun. Anyways, drop a comment about where the ODST offerings landed personally for you. Were your expectations fully met? If not, what could have been done? You know, that sort of thing. Okay, remember earlier on in this video where I spoke about if this is a good idea and what could possibly go wrong? Well, it looks like Super Earth's finest are now experimenting on all sorts of things, both biological and not, as to what effects mixing in E711 would have on them in an attempt to boost the economy of Super Earth. Through this document, we can see things like some were deemed extremely lucrative while others were lethal and should never be attempted again. We can also see things here like an ant colony, something that is totally redacted, but it says never again discarded. That sounds ominous. They also tried E711 on a deck chair, something about creating a nanoscopic black hole, new flavors of jelly divers, an industrial freezer, and finally a heavily redacted part about reverse engineering and controllable pets. Yeah, this looks like a whole lot of WTF going on here. And if you know Helldivers, like we all know Helldivers, one of these things is going to get loose, make a bunch more of itself, and start hating managed democracy. And finally, we heard talk from Arrowhead last week about wanting to maintain open lines of communication, but here on Tuesday, which is normally patch or update day, we've seen no official statements. And outside of a new player feedback survey and this post I just showed you, along with our major order success notice, we got nothing about nothing. We didn't even receive a new major order, so take it how you want it. But yeah, Arrowhead, whatever process you have in place to create, vet, and make official announcements is clearly not working. There are too many pieces and people involved, which is severely slowing down the time frames needed. That needs to be looked at, because whatever you've got going on there, all the people that are in the narrative or comms team putting together the statement, you've got legal and this person looking at it and that person, it's not working. Anyways, drop a comment about anything Helldivers and I will of course do my best to respond. Remember to hit subscribe and to ring that notifications bell to stay up to date on all things involved with this game. Thank you to all of our current channel members, for without your support, content like this would not be possible. And until the next one, this is 𝗲𝗲𝗹𝗶𝘀𝗂𝗂𝗏 signing off.